最後卒業時半や腹見た自証券法回復同一細工役者理士式具意空空意識式即税空空即税式重創業式薬部尿税者理士税商法総務商法空空情報 「
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have my good brother here in the temple, coming to us from the Wanderer's Library, good brother Sig. And technology rears its ugly head on me. Give it 1 second, folks. Any second now. And watch as as timing rears its ugly head or something. Something's decided to hang on me. See, I gave him pizza. His mouth is full, I'd wager. Well, yeah, that might do it. She's not wrong. Yeah. So, timing on my part, I suppose. But, so I'll wait for him to... Okay, you can't hear me on this end. Yeah, hold on a second, because Discord is being a little uncooperative. And for some reason, Discord disconnected me. Okay, here, I see him reconnected. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. What's going on?
Yeah, Tech Issues decided to choose a less than ideal moment right as we're starting out.
I was about to say, right at the starting gun. What the hell is this?
But how have you been over the course of this week? I know you recently finished the next leg on your journey through Doom.
Yep, Doom 64, got the lost levels done. Now we're starting Doom 3, but I probably won't do any more of that till Sunday.
Which is fair, and I said this earlier in the week, but I do find it amusing that Doom 64 has gotten a reevaluation over the last few years.
Well, that's because a lot of people never knew it existed.
I would say because of the name Doom 64, a lot of people probably wrote it off.
They wrote it off probably because they assumed it was just another straight port to the console, but didn't realize that it was something completely different.
I'm pretty sure anyone who knew better probably had played the PlayStation edition of Doom, which is not the same as the OG.
Oh, absolutely not. I can attest to that because I've beaten both Doom and Final Doom on the PlayStation.
Of course, there was also the issue that GoldenEye and Turok were eating everybody's lunch on that console.
And those games are amazing.
And thank you, Desi Darkness, for the follow. Welcome to the monastery. I hope you enjoyed the madness. But, and I did ask you this earlier. I'm guessing you're doing BFG edition and not OG Doom 3.
Correct. I mean, I could try to get it running at some point. Maybe, like, at the end of my countdown. If I have some extra time, I could look into that, because I was considering looking into PlayStation Doom just to kind of show it off.
Mm-hmm. Which is fair.
It's the one I grew up with and the one I know the best, so...
Hello there, Desi. I am doing well. We're just getting right back into it with the Valley of the Judge after a bit of warm-up due to some technical issues. So I'm guessing the mod that brightened things up a little bit, or just made it so that you didn't have to do that whole finagling with the flashlight, is going to be used. Actually, I think that
if I do decide to do that, I'm just running BFG edition right now, and I actually had some issues with that yesterday. It kept crashing on me.
But that's that, and I'm guessing Resurrection of Evil is gonna be covered as well, if possible.
Resurrection of Evil and Lost Mission. And even though Lost Mission is only like 8 levels long, it's still part of it.
Mm-hmm. Which is definitely fair. So now normally we've been going through and giving our reactions to some of the core material that we have translated for Tokyo Nova. However, and I explained this last week, we have a little something called the 3-in-1 rule. Every 3 episodes of a long-form game that we cover one lighter game or one-shot as an in-between. We also do these one-shot in-betweens when we finish with the larger games. But we've done 3 episodes of Tokyo Nova, so the one part of that 3-in-1 rule applies. And when I spun the wheel as far as what we were going to cover, because I have a big-ass wheel of names for the matter, it landed on Steamfortress Victory. Now, one might say, wait, you're going to do a whole book? Steamfortress Victory's core mechanics, spelled with an X, because of course it is only 63 pages. It's not very crunchy. This isn't like some of the full-scale core books that we've seen that are 200 pages.
Good lord. I mean, I don't have the book you're looking at, but I did find the Player's Workshop book, and, I mean, yeah, these are some small books.
And hang on a second. I could have swore that I uploaded the thing, but let me... Yeah, it did. Yeah, the core mechanics book is uploaded in the drive folder that we have.
Oh, goodness. Let me go hunt it. I know you shared with me the Sword War books. Let me see if I can hunt it down.
I may need to resend you the drive folder.
Most likely. Because I don't see anything.
So, let me do that. I'm going to DM this to you.
Okay. You know, you'd think with me being a seeker, I'd be able to hunt these things myself. But even I need help sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully you should be able to access that link.
Yep, got it.
Yep, that is where I keep the PDFs for whatever we're covering.
Excellent.
I know you might do a double take in the fact that there's a Batman RPG there, but that's for another time.
I'll have to take a look at that in my own time.
Yeah, that game was handled by the same people who are going to be doing the Berserk board game soon.
Very nice.
I really wish I... Oh, and thank you for the 200 bits. I just realized that I don't get bits all that often, so I didn't put in a sound clip for that. I need to do that. I need to find a sound clip that's just as obnoxious as my other ones.
I could give you the heat action sound effect from Yakuza if that's something you'd be interested in.
I'll figure something out. I think I've got a few that I can work with.
Right.
But with that said, so Steamfortress Victory is a game from a few years ago. The first edition came out in 2012.
Oh, so it's fairly recent.
Mm-hmm. And let me make sure to have this double paged.
Kind of gives me a weird steampunky Fallout kind of vibe just from looking at some of the art.
Mm-hmm. Which I can definitely see. Now let me see. Do we have bookmarks? We do not. I'm willing to let that somewhat slide because this is a smaller book, and also this was 2012. The whole bookmarks and hyperlinks standardized thing didn't quite catch on yet. And let me check the back end. So I want to see something. Okay, no index. That's gonna be a paddling.
Don't mess with Mildra. He's already freaking overwhelmed me with Hell Knights during my Doom 64 run.
That was completely on you.
I still think you had something to do with it.
Mm-hmm. So, alright, given the text size, I'm going to be doing this single page and just zooming in for parts. So, the intro goes, "Welcome to an America in utter chaos. Welcome to the world of Steamfortress Victory. This book, Core Mechanics, is a role-playing game bare-bones kit to give you everything you need to build a PC and prepare to portray the story of an industrial American in the SFV alternate history timeline." So, Core Mechanics is essentially meant to be akin to the player's guide scene in like Numenera, which is just the core book, but with all the GM-facing parts of it taken out.
Right.
Now, in this case, the GM is referred to as the engineer, and I may end up making 2 Ford jokes because of that.
Okay.
Because remember, the answer is use a gun. And if that don't work, use more gun. Yeah. But let's see. Starting out is pretty standard fare about the difference between the players and the GM. Winning the game, we already know how that's going. Despite what people like Jeffro say, you're not supposed to be winning at the game.
No, that's not the point.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Then materials needed: pen, paper, and the PC blueprint. Which we do have a nice player character sheet in the back.
Yeah, I saw that. That looked nice.
Mm-hmm. Tokens. The game is a mechanic called boiler points that requires a group pooling of tokens. So it's best to have that. And several 10-sided dice. So we are using D10s exclusively, it looks like. Then it goes into the victory system. SFV runs off a rule set called the victory system. It uses 10-sided dice to resolve PC actions that need to be simulated because they can't be simulated or have a degree of luck involved. Typo. So the engineer has a player roll dice equal to the attribute that they're using for that action. Attributes represent physical traits. If you meet or beat a 7 on a roll, you achieve a successful result. This is known as a victory. Attribute rolls may have skill modifiers applied to them, which come in the form of bonuses and penalties. So what we have here is akin to the D10 die pool you would see in a World of Darkness game. You're rolling attribute and skills in D10s. You're looking for any die that hits 7 or up. I don't see any sort of effect that happens if you roll 10s. Let's see. Unfortunately, I must take my leave, but I wanted to stop by for a little bit and show my support. Have fun with the stream, and I'll see you next time. Oh, no worries, Desi. Thank you for stopping by. I see that Tabby had said, but I want to win at my TTRPGs. And also saying Finn only went down for a moment because he got hit like a Mack truck. Oh, you got truck-cooned, huh?
In a manner of speaking. I'll go into that later.
Yeah. But then we have backfire dice. The world has many unique gadgets and abilities available to PCs. Some of these gadgets have powerful but unstable effects. To reflect the instability of these features, the engineer rolls backfire dice when they are used by the PC. Victories on these rolls will result in dangerous or unexpected effects occurring on the device used to the PC himself. Once again, typo there. So,
yeah.
I've mentioned this before, but I like giving my players powerful but unsafe equipment.
Same.
Sometimes it's a case of, is this thing going to explode or not? Who knows? Or it's a case of, this thing is ridiculously OP, but every time you use the thing, something interesting happens. And that's the reason why I've used as the metric the noisy cricket from Men in Black.
Ah, yes!
You know, is extremely powerful, but every time you fire the thing, you get knocked on your ass.
Sounds like what happened with the super shotgun I used in one of my one-shots when I still ran 5e.
Mm-hmm.
Dude fired it, just got blown 15 feet on his ass.
Mm-hmm.
That's what do you expect firing 4 barrels?
Yeah. Incidentally, that's why I enjoy the setup of the super shotgun and like Eternal, because it's very clearly way too big to be considered a normal double barrel.
The super hook shotgun. It is one of my favorite guns.
Mm-hmm. That's also why when I would do like Necromunda, if somebody found a bolter, I would say, you can use this, but you're not using this full clip. You're using it as a single shot.
Oh my goodness!
Because, well, at the end of the day, remember, a bolter is a rapid fire rocket gun.
Yeah, I was about to say, doesn't that have some kick to it?
Yes.
I am not terribly familiar with Warhammer. The only things I really know about it are bolt gun and some of memes I've seen around X, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, it goes into the formatting for rolling dice. Attribute plus skill plus or minus modifier, so pretty standard. And then gives a example of backfire dice, saying, so Honey Goodbun wants to use a boiler-powered jetpack she found lying around the knight's workshop. She succeeds in lifting off, but the engineering rolls the jetpack's 1 backfire dice and scores a victory. The jetpack stalls in midair as Honey prays that the engineer won't be rolling any backfire dice for her parachute.
Why does she look like she's rocking a 50s hairstyle?
I'm pretty sure that was a dead giveaway with the yellow polka dot bikini.
Oh.
But then we have tiers of damage. So the tiers of damage are impact, wear, and tear. Impact is minor physical damage taken. You know, bruises caused by punches, minor skulls, twisted ankles. No immediate penalty, but overflow converts into wear damage, which is moderate damage inflicted. Cuts, bone fractures, bleeding wounds. Each point inflicts a -1 penalty. Tear damage is major damage, heavy bleeding, major burns, or broken bones. Each point of tear damage results in a -1 die to all actions. Only explosions and other extreme attacks cause tear damage. Once again, I'm being reminded of like World of Darkness, where it has bashing, lethal, and aggravated types of damage.
Mhm.
Then we have the boiler points and pressure dice. These are two mechanics designed to reward players for achieving victory on rolls in a way that rewards the entire group and helps progress the story. After all, playing an RPG is a group effort. I'm glad they pointed that out because I think even some people who claim to be veterans tend to forget this point. When a PC achieves multiple victories on a roll, they gain a boiler point. To represent these points, a token is placed in the center of your team's gaming space. This area is now your bonus pool. Only 1 point can be gained regardless of the number of victories rolled, in addition to the first. These points, and there's a bit of a typo again, can be spent to apply -1 penalties to the NPCs when they perform actions.
So is that just 1 point for the entire all the PCs, or is it 1 point each?
I think it's a shared pool, kind of like light side points in FFG Star Wars.
Mhm.
Which does mean you do have to exercise a bit of care in terms of who's using them.
Right.
There's a few restrictions. They can only be used before dice are rolled for an action. You can use no more than 5 boiler points on a single roll. And they can't be used to alter initiative rolls and when rolling any type of damage. But boiler points can be used to activate some genius abilities, which we'll probably get to that in a bit. But then we have pressure dice. These are additional dice added to your team's bonus pool. Team members can use these as extra dice to roll on a non-combat attribute roll. These dice are one-time use and get removed from the bonus pool when used. A PC gains a pressure die when they roll a natural 10 on an attribute die, and they place a 1d10 in the bonus pool to show its availability for the team. Pressure dice have a few caveats. When it's used for the roll, no boiler points can be gained from that action if multiple victories occur. Additional pressure dice cannot be gained from any action that uses pressure dice. As with boiler points, pressure die may not be used for initiative or damage rolls. And when the engineer is going to roll backfire dice, players may use pressure dice to reduce the number of backfire dice rolled on a 1-for-1 trade-off. So this is where things veer off a little bit from the World of Darkness comparison. In the storyteller system, which World of Darkness uses, die that are 7 or higher are treated as a success. 10s are treated twice. Here we have it where 10s add a pressure dice that you can get that other players can take. Because it looks like both boiler points and pressure dice are shared amongst the party.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good way to reinforce working as a group. Which I'm always glad when that happens, because a lot of games treat the party as a group of individuals.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say the games themselves, or at least some games, it's more up to the table, the individual table, I would say.
There are ways to encourage it. Encourage group play and encourage teamwork. And I think it's something that we only started to see when TTRPGs started veering away from being war games with plot.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have a nice little spread of the professional class with a gun that is definitely very steampunk.
Oh yeah.
But then we have character generation. Starting with the PC blueprint, which is what they call the character sheet in the game. And it is built on 6 steps. Blueprint concept, choosing a romance, molding a genius, etching the metal, tempering the steel, and PC background. So concept is just a broad descriptor of the concept of your character. And it does give a few examples here. The idea of concept is meant to be very broad, because of the fact that it's meant to inform your character, like how one would describe a character in less than a sentence. But there isn't a mechanical effect of concept. Then
nationality. Yeah, I saw the nationalities. It kind of reminds me of something I've read in Dystopian Dawn, where your nationality determines some stats, but it looks like this determines something different.
Yeah. Now the U.S. has been divided to 5 nations in Steamfortress Victory: the Unified States of America, the Confederation of Free States, the Dakota Chiefdom, the Republic of Texas, and the Shogunate of the West. Going first of all, SFB is a game about nationalism and how a crumbling political structure combined with rapidly advancing technology can lead to the collapse of modern society. But it's basically that the different nations are going to have different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of game mechanics, it says your choice of nationality can affect your PC concept in a few ways. Your nationality will influence your attitude towards other nations and might affect which romance you choose for your character. Also, certain nations have exclusive geniuses. Before you finalize your nationality, you should read the next 2 sections about romances and geniuses and how they work. And then we have the genius restrictions as well as the possible nationalities for them. But then we get to choosing a romance, which is the core set of beliefs that influences all of your actions and interactions in the game. Essentially, the reason he gets out of bed in the morning to go be a hero. And these are essentially personality archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
I could see someone looking at alignment and hang on, we got a bot.
Uh-oh. Kill it!
1 second, and it is killed.
Huzzah! I was about to say, I got my sword ready. I can go for it.
But to quote a great man, he's dead, Jim.
Hey, look, Tabby helped set it on fire.
I mean, I guess I could compare this to like the 9 alignments, but since this isn't trying to do morality and isn't trying to do forced decisions, that makes it better than the alignment system. Yeah, I've never been. I enjoy the alignment system when it comes to the memes, but I was never fond of what it ended up becoming with time.
Yeah, because alignment way back when AD&D was out, it means something completely different now.
The alignment system was born out of the fact that Gygax and Arneson were fans of the Eternal Champion series, especially Elric. And it was meant to reflect within that universe, you have a pantheon for law and a pantheon for chaos. Both of them are different flavors of asshole, or can be. And alignment was meant to be where the forces of law and chaos saw you, and saw your character.
Right.
Over time, it somehow morphed into a morality system, when it was never designed for that. And this is where you end up getting weird stuff like the forced behaviors of certain characters, such as how, like in AD&D, barbarians had to destroy any magic item that they came across. They were compelled to do that, which was stupid, which is why AD&D barbarians were treated as poor man's fighters, especially since they didn't don't think they got access to magic items until like 10th level. And by that point, the fighter is drowning in magic weapons and armor.
Oh, yeah.
Or the really, really stupid stuff with alignment in, like, 3rd edition. For example, this is where we get the meme of the lawful stupid paladin, though that was already set in stone before then. It just got worse. The whole, the paladin can't, if he does these things, then he falls and you have to be a blackguard, which resulted in that GM abusing it. And why paladins got a reputation as a problem class. But
man, I'm glad I don't run alignment like that.
I threw out alignment the first chance I got.
Fair.
Especially since the only mechanical end of things was maybe some magic items and a few spells, which could easily be taken out anyways. Do we really need 18 different versions of protection from or detect?
Not really.
But
unless you're like setting a really, really clever trap.
And I mean, in the book itself, that's just bloat. You could slim all that down by just protection from source or detect source.
Right.
But the romances that are available, and there are 6 of them, are the Explorer. These are the more pioneering folks. The Fortune Hunter. Your standard treasure hunter who's looking to get rich or try dying. The Inventor. I don't think I need to explain what an inventor is going to be in a steampunk setting.
Right.
The Nationalist, which is described as fighting for something that they believed in. And they use some interesting examples here. George Washington, Shaka Zulu. You don't see his name brought up much in these kind of games. And Maximilian Robespierre. The Perfectionist. The people who feel that they're better than everyone else. But it does go into the fact that the perfectionist isn't like the elvish superiority kind of archetype. Which is good, because that kind of archetype, I think, is the reason so many people hate elves. As a bit of an aside, I do like this mechanical horse we have here that is complete with a front guard for the rider.
Right.
Then the true romantic, which is fanatics. And it's very clear that each of the romances is a double-edged sword, which is very nice.
Yeah, I do see that. I think that's pretty cool.
But then the next step is molding a genius. The majority of people in the world have mundane jobs or professions. You do not. You have the gift of a genius. These are specialized professions with abilities and knowledge that make everyday people jealous. You can only choose one genius for your character, and then we have descriptions of each one. So I guess genius would be your class in this game. So the geniuses that we have are Airship Privateer. Don't call a privateer a pirate unless you want your life to come to an abrupt end. Fair. Although if I wanted to be pedantic, I would say a legal pirate.
Yeah.
But they are, well, privateers just on airships. They start with an adventurer's gear package and a tech level of 1. We'll get to what that's going to be in a bit. Then Bacchanalians. Who seem to focus on Bloodor. which is used for, it says used for building machinery or weapons, sometimes consumed in elixirs. So in that regard, I'd compare it to the alchemist class in Pathfinder, and how they
Yeah,
can use.
I was about to say this seems like an alchemist from its description.
Mhm. Mixing, and creating blood or drinks that augment their abilities, and it's probably very risky with that effect. But they begin with the Gentleman's Gear package and tech level 1. So then the Dakota Brave, which is essentially is exactly what the name implies. But unlike the stereotypical Native American in a Western, the Braves have embraced the use of blood ore technology, combined with generations of traditional strategies. So if somebody wants to lean into playing as a Apache, this is what they'd use.
So it's like a steampunk version of a street samurai.
Mm-hmm. In battle, they use the long spear, the tomahawk, and the automatic crossbow, to name a few. Whenever I think of automatic crossbow and steampunk affairs, I keep thinking of that repeater crossbow in Van Helsing.
Oh, I loved that thing. That thing was dope.
Mm-hmm. Dakota Braves begin with the Adventurer's Gear package and a tech level of 1. Then we have Duelists, which is exactly what it sounds like. Though I do like that it also points out duelists will often conceal their identity, especially since battle by proxy duels are growing in popularity. So, I can't be the only one thinking of Zorro.
Yeah, that is true.
They begin with the Gentleman's Gear package and a tech level of 1. Though, given that it talks about duelists being a specialist in a specific group of weapons, I would say the duelist is akin to a weapon master, or if you're using the Shadowrun analogy again, a adept.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then the Knights of Liberty, who are described as a secret society whose goal is to restore the Constitution and aid a fractured America in becoming one nation. They directly oppose Silverhorn and his machinations. They are freedom fighters and live double lives, concealing their identities behind everyday facades. The Knights are outlaws, they are not trusted by normal people, and are wanted criminals. And they hide their identity in fear of assassination attempts by their nemesis, the Invisible Cavalry. They infiltrate, observe, and sometimes sabotage Silverhorn Industries in order to further their goals. Their training is unique in the Steam Age, and although they're not trained warriors, the Knights of Liberty rarely walk into situations where they don't have 2 or 3 options for survival. They have access to more supplies and specialized equipment than other geniuses. Additionally, the Knights have skills retaining to their cover identity as well as a greater knowledge of deception than other people. They're spies. Spies and saboteurs, so a bit of spy and a bit of special forces, I suppose. They begin the game with access to any items from each of the 3 gear packages and a tech level of 2.
Well, yeah, when you're messing with all sorts of different gear, yeah, you're going to need the technological training.
Mm-hmm. But then we have the Mad Hatters, who have harnessed blood ore to alter their own bodies and minds, often in gruesome ways. Hatters understand blood ore in a way different than other people. They can repair or alter machines, but they prefer to modify themselves, trying to achieve perfection. Hatters have no set role in society, and people in the 5 nations are weary of them for this reason. Many Hatters are drifters, moving from city to city without rhyme or reason. Hatters have access to unique technology of their own creation. While not skilled in combat, Hatters are dangerous foes since you never know what upgrades they have made. They begin with...
mad scientist.
Yep. With the Inventor's Gear package and a tech level of 2. So remember, we're all mad down here. And
True.
the professional, people with mundane skills who've gone out into the world to become adventurers. Unlike other geniuses, professionals represent common workers attempting to accomplish extraordinary feats. Professionals begin with either an adventurer's or adventurer's gear package and tech level 1. Then the Steam Soldier, which is exactly what it sounds like. They have a special gear package, which is implied to be specific to the nation that they hail from. And tech level 2. Then the Tesla Conductor. Individuals who have the gift of being able to sense and control the energies generated by blood ore. These PCs act as literal batteries for devices both built from and powered by blood ore. They come from all walks of life and may be from any of the 5 nations. And they have several types of blood ore abilities. While not skilled in combat, they can manipulate blood ore devices and detect things made from blood ore. These abilities allow for the creation of guns, explosive, and other diabolical inventions. So I'd say this is also the techie, just in a different sense.
Steam Technomancer.
They begin with the Adventures package and a tech level of 2. Then we have step 4, etching the metal. This is where you're handling the stat blocks, starting with attributes and skills. So attribute scores range from 1 to 3, with 1 being poor, 2 is average, and 3 is exceptional. 4 or more is godlike prowess, but it looks like you're only going to be getting 4 if you have certain benefits. Which, as long as we understand what the baseline for each attribute is, I'm perfectly fine with that. But let's see. The attributes you have are Allure, Brains, Brawn, Hustle, Iron, and Work. Hustle is akin to Agility or Dexterity, it seems. Iron, I'd say, would be akin to Constitution. Toughness and Fortitude.
Yes.
And Work is the ability to use knowledge and adapt it to situations.
So, Wisdom.
Yeah. Then selecting skills. Skills range from 0 to 3. 0 is untrained, 3 is a master. Some skills may exceed 3 in rare cases. There are a total of 30 skills. Also, I forgot to mention, with attributes, all of them start at 1. You have 7 points to distribute among the 6 attributes. No attribute can start at greater than 3.
That makes sense.
With skills, you have 17 points to distribute among all the skills you want. And we are doing that whole thing of each attribute has a set of skills associated with it, it appears. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So, the Allure skills are Deceit, Diplomacy, Etiquette, Intimidation, and Performance. The Brain skills are Book Smarts, Investigation, Linguistics, Medicine, and Science. Does look like we only have 5 for each. Nice. The Brawn skills are Brawl, Grapple, Labor, Leaping, and Lift. The Hustle skills are Maneuvers, Melee, Ranged Attack, Ride, and Stealth. The Iron skills are Disease Resistance, Endurance, Metal, and Survival and Toxin Resistance. The Work skills are Blood Ore Science, Engineering, Gadgetry, and Scavenging. And that is all of these skills, so it's a decent spread among them. As far as I know, I've bitched about skill lists in some games, but that I only have a problem with that when the skill list is too expansive. But 4 or 5 skills per attribute, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, keeps things simple.
Uh, I do kind of wish with some of these skills they do have examples about what it would be at each rank. I do wish more of them were there, but that's a personal nitpick on my end. But then we have tempering the steel. Basically your derived attributes, as well as what's known as fathom abilities. First being damage threshold, so how much physical abuse you can take. This is equal to your iron attribute times 2. Let's say damage threshold, that's going to be your hit points. Velocity, who acts first, it is equal to the lower between your hustle or brains attribute. Interesting that it's lower instead of higher.
Right.
So this is your initiative. And then movement speed. You have 3 movement speeds. Walk, which is hustle in yards per second. Quick walk / jog, hustle times 2. And run, hustle times 4. All 3 in yards per second. So if you've got hustle of 3, which is the soft cap, your walk is 3 yards per second, which that's not is that really a walk?
No, that's more like, oh, I'm here. Oh, I'm here.
Yeah. A quick walk would be 6 yards per second. And a run would be 12 yards per second. That is okay. 12 yards in a second. That's something I could for someone who's got hustle of 3. That would be the equivalent of testing your 30 in the combine, for instance. You know, the good old 30-meter dash. As an aside, while I was doing some prep, I happened to revisit Eddie Hall's video where he decided to try some of the exercises in the NFL Combine as part of him trying other sports and failing at it. And because
from what I gather with these speeds, it's like it's really 2 speeds. It's holy shit, or I just hit a tree.
Of course, that's at hustle at 3. Which again, that's the soft cap. So if you've got it at that, you should be expected to be that fast.
Yeah.
But then we have the gear package. Start playing as quickly as possible. SFV has condensed the process of equipping your character to choosing gear packages. These are genius specific and give you about everything you need to get up and running in an epoch. If you need additional items not listed in your gear package, consult with your engineer and request them. As long as you can make a quote-unquote good case as to why your PC should be carrying certain tools or items, your engineer should have no problems giving them to you. Now, if you have chosen to build a Steam Soldier or Knights of Liberty PC, your gear packages are a little different. The Steam Soldier starts with his own package because they are former members of a military unit. In the same vein, as members of a secret society, Knights begin the game with much greater funding than any other genius. And there is a unique gear package chart for those two. After you get your gear package settled, you can go through the tech charts and start buying equipment and weapons. And that's in the player's workshop. But the adventurer's package, for instance, with it, you have the personal effects here. So these are essentially your starting equipment packages, and I'm always in favor of these sort of packages instead of just saying, here's 200 GP, figure it out. I know some people will romanticize that with the amount of freedom that you get, but you're also inducing a kind of analysis paralysis with it. Especially...
And you run the risk of players kind of banking their stuff to save for later.
Or sometimes going into the really minute stuff. Like, one thing that I do not miss from my early years is having to track how many torches people have or how many 5 feet how many 10-foot poles or lengths of rope. Because I had cases like that where somebody didn't bring that, and the GM ends up punishing us. Like, well, you should have gotten your 10-foot pole beforehand. You know, those kind of GMs.
Yep.
We often call that type that guy here. Everybody knows that guy. Everybody hates that guy. Sometimes that guy is not a guy. But then the technology level. So the discovery of blood ore has changed the world. Some people, such as the Tesla conductors, Bacchanalians, and Mad Hatters, have embraced this new and exciting miracle mineral, while others like the Professional and the Dakota Braves still look at blood ore devices and wonder. A PC's tech level represents their comfort with using the devices and machinery of the 5 nations. Starting tech level is determined by a PC's genius. And we kind of already went that when we went through the geniuses that were present.
Yes.
Then record Fathom abilities. Fathoms are essentially, I would say Fathoms are the equivalent of levels and the features you get from them.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the unique gear packages, we have one for the Steam Soldier that has their personal effects. Though the fact that they can have a weapon that has a higher cost threshold speaks volumes. And the Knights of Liberty are far more freeform. They get 2,000 eagles or equivalent, and choose any personal effects, tools, and weapons from any of the packages as long as it fits within their cover ID.
Right. I mean, because they can essentially be anything without actually being anything.
And because of that, I have the distinct feeling that it is not advisable to have someone's first character be a Steam Soldier or a Knight of Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
Which is perfectly fine. There's always going to be some archetypes that are definitely a bit more higher floor. I mean, hell, with Legend Edition, we make explicitly clear we don't advise people picking Adept as the first class that they go with.
Right.
In the same vein, we have that whole sidebar about maybe don't pick any of the independent jobs your first time because they are a bit more complex. And even the simple ones do require a degree of system mastery.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not opposed to system mastery archetypes. I just think that treating the caster as the system mastery archetype is a bad move. Especially since that's one of the many reasons why martial characters end up getting the shaft.
Indeed. Because they're rendered obsolete pretty quickly by a character that can just nuke the battlefield.
or the character who's an entire party by themselves. I've talked about how much I hate the spell Knock, for instance.
So any character in 5th edition.
My problems with spells with stuff like that go back all the way back to my days with AD&D. Like, I am not a new hater when it comes to some of D&D's bad habits.
Yeah.
But I do like that we have. It seems that between each chapter we have a image representative of each of the geniuses, and in this case, the airship privateer. Why am I getting flashbacks to both Crimson Skies and Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow?
Why do I get freaking Rocketeer vibes?
And same energy.
Definitely.
And incidentally, both of those films are ones that are significantly underrated. But here we have Fathom abilities. Fathoms represent your levels of knowledge and experience that you gain during your journey through the 5 nations. As you complete game sessions, you gain depth, which is experience points essentially. When you reach certain depth points, you'll gain a Fathom. You acquire more skills, a better understanding of steam-powered tech, and more Fathom abilities as you advance in Fathom levels. You typically begin the game at Fathom 1, however the engineer may decide otherwise for a high-powered adventure. So yeah, Fathoms, I'd say, would be akin to character level. And when it comes to skill advancement, it says that each Fathom adds new skill ranks to your PCs. You're allowed to learn a new skill at rank 1, as well as add an additional rank to an existing skill. Skills cannot exceed rank 3 unless otherwise specified. And we have gaining tech levels. Every odd-numbered Fathom increases your tech level by 1. And we have a nice little chart that represents what can be invented or operated on at each tech level. So, tech level 1, basic stuff. Mechanical melee weapons and small gadgets. Level 2, ranged weapons and larger gadgets. Level 3, you can create simple gadgets and devices, and can modify or fix existing tech. This allows for body augmentation with machinery, such as prosthetics. And you can attempt to pilot vehicles or operate heavy weaponry. Tech level 4, you have a great deal of experience in blood ore devices. You're competent at building heavy body armor pieces and piloting complex machinery like airships or underwater craft. Skilled PCs can create man-sized robots and large weaponry, as well as repair damaged vehicles. Tech level 5, this is having a doctorate in steam tech. You have mastered all corresponding blood ore devices and have the ability to create complex machinery and vehicles from scratch or scrap, as the case may be. I would say tech levels is almost an escalating proficiency setup.
Mm-hmm.
But
just imagine some of the crazy shit you could do with like a tech level 5.
Mm-hmm. But after that, it goes into the Fathom abilities for each genius. And let me see. It looks like it goes up to Fathom 10. So essentially, at each Fathom, you're getting one feature and you're getting a skill point. And I do like that there's a gradual progression kind of approach, where the higher up you go, the more legendary you come off. Like with the airship privateer, first is getting your sky legs. But at higher tiers, you become less of just another pilot and start becoming a commander. Let's see, then the Bacchanalians are built around their cocktails, which are divided into 3 groups. Bijoux, Jokers, and Derbies. Bijoux augment attributes by +2, either +2 to 1 attribute or +1 to 2 of them. Jokers allow them to alter physical form. And Derbies put you in a deep slumber and bestow sustained abilities such as precognition or rapid regeneration, though not reliably.
So each has a different purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it also says, unless otherwise noted, a Bacchanalian or anyone else drinking a blood or cocktail is required to take an iron roll in order to keep the drink down. If you aren't a Bacchanalian and you try to drink a cocktail, you receive a -3 penalty to the iron roll, and if you fail, you start vomiting.
Oh. You know, for some reason, when we're talking about the Bacchanalians, I get this distinct Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of vibe from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Which I can certainly see it. but the cocktails have a few recurring rules: the duration, the attribute and effect, and how many backfire dice. So you can't just chug that shit. You gotta be careful. But then we have a thing on mixology, a thing on making batches. And then the fathoms proper. Along with the different cocktail types. Though it specifically goes into the three. For example, the Bijos, since each of them is just a stat modifier, they don't require their own individual entry.
Mm-hmm.
But each of them does have a backfire of 1d10. Let's see, Jokers. You have 3 suits of Jokers: lower, greater, and noble, which have different durations, different rolls, and at least 1d10 in backfire. Then the greater suits have more interesting abilities, and some of them don't have backfire dice at all, and some have more. Obviously, we're not going to go through each one individually, but you get the idea with them.
Yep.
Then the Dakota Braves are close combat fighters that focus on stamina and intimidation, and at higher tiers can take on leadership roles.
So kind of like a barbarian in castles. Once you get to a certain level, you start getting followers. Or same with the cleric.
Yeah, that's been a thing, that was a thing in a lot of early D&D as well. Though I think the game that handles that whole concept best is Axe, because it puts a lot more detail in not only getting followers, but eventually getting a full-on holding.
Nice.
And well, for casters who get that, they can't cast the highest tier spells solo. They have to do them as group castings. But
that's actually pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, but since at that level you're gonna have followers anyways, it kind of evens out.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have the duelist, who they start attempting to master a single weapon of their choice, and every odd fathom thereafter, a new weapon can be added to their repertoire. If we're going to be using the CNC comparisons, I'd say the duelists would be akin to fighters,
mm-hmm.
which for me brings up the question that I tried to answer with the fighter job in my system of what's the incentive to bring multiple weapons around, especially if in a lot of games it's so much of an action drain to switch between weapons, because you have to do the action to sheath one weapon, then another action to unsheath a weapon. But and of course at the top end you have something like Master Duelist, where you are an unmatched fighter and is renowned throughout the 5 nations. Once per combat cycle, you can have your opponent reroll an action. In each combat cycle, you score a victory in an attack roll, add a pressure die to the pool. Just
jeez.
Straight up, you add a pressure die. Every time you attack. I mean, it's only once per round, but that's essentially one borderline free pressure die, and the whole once per combat cycle being able to force a reroll.
Not to mention, with the pressure die, you can have other players use that to impose disadvantages and penalties on your opponents.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the Knights of Liberty, which, as we mentioned, are not far removed from spies. And, okay, there we go. And with a nice little image of good old-fashioned cane fighting. Because apparently they traveled to... At Fathom 3, they traveled to a hidden training club in Nova Scotia and learned the art of Baritsu. A combination of traditional jiu-jitsu, British boxing, Swiss Schwingen, and French savate with the use of improvised weapons such as canes or lead pipes.
Savate?
Yeah.
That's some tricky shit.
So it's essentially, even though the knights are spies, that does not mean that they are the same kind of skill monkey who's barely useful in a fight.
Oh no, they'll fuck you up.
Mm-hmm. But it is stated as a combination of boxing, wrestling, fencing, savate, stiletto, and improvised weapon training. A gentleman's defense system, hence why the Knights of Liberty make it mandatory learning. As a combat action, you may make a Baritsu melee attack. If you do so, you roll Hustle Baritsu. This attack inflicts brawn or club damage, depending on if a cane was used or not, and gives the target a -2 penalty on all their actions in the next combat cycle due to disorientation. It also adds to an active guard. When a PC with Baritsu attempts an active guard roll, add a +1 modifier for each rank of Baritsu. So it's a way to do stunning attack and additional defense. We also have that knights have the prestidigitation skill, which is a skill and not a spell here, but it's basically your sleight of hand stuff. Then the Mad Hatter, who is, of course, doing the body modifications. Though when it talks about them wanting to be as close to a well-oiled blood machine as possible, I can't help but think of the Adeptus Mechanicus, who are, the tech priests who want to embrace the purity of the machine. But this is definitely the mad inventor kind of approach. And of course, the first Fathom is called the Hat. But I like that number 6 is called I Can Rebuild Me.
They're pulling a Dr. Giro.
Yeah. But and number 8 is I Can Make Me a Better Me. But
again, more Dr. Giro, except with Android 19.
Yeah. But in the process of getting more stuff, they can develop things like phobias or manias.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'd say is a case of that. The more that they're upgrading themselves, the more they're playing with going crazy. And we have a nice little thing for minor enhancements and major enhancements. So, an example of a minor enhancement would be the Stem of Motion, which adds +1 hustle, but has a backfire of 1d10 rolled with each use. Whereas one of the major enhancements would be something like the Sledgehammer. A surgical enhancement on each arm, adds +2 to brawn, +6 to lift. Brawl damage does an extra d10 wear damage. Backfire 1d10 rolled with each use. If backfire is successful, -2 brawn for 1 hour.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, the professional, I'd say I'd say the professional would be the akin to the skill monkey. The Steam Soldier. It appears that one of their big things is gradually building up to a full-on Steam suit. So,
Let's imagine having power armor in this type of setting.
Mm-hmm. But there are variations there. But this is the only one that has sub-variations for the different types of soldiers. So, a different set of fathoms for the United States, for the Unified States, one for the Republic of Texas. As well as base upgrades for the Steam suit. So you're effectively building custom power armor, as mentioned. Mid upgrades that require Fathom 5 or higher. And high up
shotgun blades. What?
Shotgun combat blades. Exotic blades of followed steel, allowing for a sharper edge and greater damage potential.
Shogun.
Yeah, Shogun.
Oh, Shogun. I was like, shotgun? What? Am I reading that right?
Apparently not. Though it also entails Arc Inferno Gauntlet attachment. So you can add flamethrowers to your gauntlets.
I am trying my best not to make a G Gundam joke here.
But then at Fathom 7 or higher, you can take high upgrades, such as the shoulder-mounted MP-1914 Hotchkiss. A shoulder-mounted heavy machine gun.
Shoulder cannon. Got it.
Or a backpack-mounted air torpedo. Or the Stone's Throw grenade launcher, which fires several grenades in rapid succession into a small area.
So an Inquisitor from Strife.
But it looks like there's only those two nations when it comes to the Steam Soldier. Then the Tesla Conductor, which I would say this is a tech wizard essentially, especially since at higher fathoms you can make robots and remote operate vehicles.
So Steam Technomancer.
Mm-hmm. Or a rigger.
Yeah, that's true. I can see that.
And they get their own skill known as electrical physiology. But I could see someone playing this to do the engineer approach, build a robot buddy to help out and support indirectly.
Building a dispenser.
And the ultimate ability is to move outside of time. The Tesla Conductor can effectively build a time machine and use it to take several actions very quickly. In order to accommodate the large-scale gyroscopes needed for time travel, the time machine's physical size is similar to that of a locomobile. When this locomobile hits 88 kph, you're going to see some serious shit.
I love it. God. Back to the Future.
But then we get into combat proper. A lot of it is fairly straightforward, it appears. The combat cycle is the turn. For determining initiative, it's 1d10 plus velocity. Highest goes first. Though the highest PC initiative chooses a combat cycle, gear, or cog. This sets the order of actions in the combat cycle. Then combat main phase. Each participant declares whether or not they're taking passive defense. and then act. Actions continue in chosen cog or gear order. Boost actions may be declared. We'll probably get to boost actions in a moment. And continue until everybody's acted. Then resolve combat round, assign damage, and repeat step 3 until combat cycle is resolved. So essentially, gear versus cog is a case of first in, first out, or last in, first out. In the form where the PC or NPC who has the highest initiative acts first, followed by the PC or NPC with the next highest, and progresses in order down the line. In the cog sequence, it is lowest acts first. But if you have higher initiative, you can interrupt the action known as a boost. You can only perform a boost if you have yet to act in the current turn. It alters the normal turn sequence, doesn't grant extra actions. Only one PC can perform a boost to interrupt the current PC or NPC's action. In the case that multiple PCs want to boost at the same time, the one with the highest velocity gets to perform it. If it's tied, roll d10.
So one person can go first.
See when can. Now the gear combat cycle does allow for some boosting through Fathom abilities, but doesn't occur otherwise. But I feel like the game is more naturally set up for the cog sequence, but gear is there for those who want a more simple approach to initiative. But it could be a bit counterintuitive to a lot of people who are used to the whole highest go first when it comes to initiative.
Right. And I think these two different styles are for how fast do you want this to go?
As well as how do you want to give options for interruptions. But then we have how melee and ranged attacks works, which are skill rules. Special attacks for unconventional attacks are special maneuvers like disarming, tripping, that is hustle plus maneuvers. For defense, there's no skill for dodging attacks. If you want to avoid, you have two options. Either passive defense, which is declared at the start of turns, or active guard. So passive defense is akin to your brains, which is just a static modifier to attacks against you. Whereas active guard, it is your action for that combat cycle. When you're being attacked, you roll either hustle or brains. If you score a victory, the attacker receives a 2-die penalty to their roll. You can't have passive defense and active guard in the same combat cycle. So
you're either blocking or you're not.
Yeah. I know some might say, well, why even do active in that case? If you do passive defense, any action roll that you make receives the same penalty. In other words, passive defense is you dedicating yourself solely to defense. But after that, we do have the way damage works, and we kind of went over this a little bit. And then the tools of the trade, which is weapon name, range, ID, and WD. As well as the damage for and what obviously ID and WD is meant to be impact or wear damage.
Yep.
And the last bit that it goes into is the 5 nations and the themes of the game, as well as the whole thing with Blood War, the Great Steam War, and so on. Then we have a basic list of weaponry. Though I see that some equipment is using other forms of currency. I didn't see a conversion piece, although I may have skimmed it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either,
Yeah.
so you're not the only one.
But then we have advanced weaponry. You need tech level 1 or higher to have that, as well as the amount of depth required for each fathom advancement. And finally, we have the character sheet proper. And I do like that it does have its own little things for the for some of the specific geniuses. And that more or less covers the core mechanics of Steamfortress Victory. So before I get into what I think of it, what's your take on what you saw here?
I like it. It's very different. It's different than I initially thought. I thought it was just like, I mean, steam mechs and whatnot are a part of it, but I thought it was just all, steam mech pilots and whatnot. But no, this is a full-on steampunk thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the rifle butt hatchet here in the weaponry. It's like,
yeah. I could see a lot of people making World of Darkness comparisons. I did as well. But this game is far more restrained in terms of its dice pool. It's especially since there's not as high of a cap. And the fact that it is using a level setup instead of full freeform is going to make it a little bit easier to bring people into. I like World of Darkness, don't get me wrong, but being freeform is a double-edged sword that I think a lot of people need to acknowledge. Sometimes it can make things easier, and sometimes it can make things more difficult. But I've seen a lot of people try and over-romanticize the more freeform nature of some games, and I think when they do that, they forget the bigger picture, i.e., not everybody's going to have that same level of experience or is playing at your table. But with this one, I definitely like the setup here. It is dedicated to its particular setting, so you're not going to use this as a generic steampunk affair. I know, but this is far more dedicated to steampunk than it is some sort of steampunk fantasy like Arcanum. Because there isn't really magic here. At least not in the usual sense. And besides, anything that might be close to magic is tied to specific geniuses. But what I think really helps the game is the team effort through the tokens and pressure dice. That I think helps the game really stand out.
Gives it a flow and encourages teamwork, as you said before.
And it does have a bit of a feel like something that came out of the late 2000s. But I'm looking at its entry on DriveThruRPG. The core mechanics right now is only $1.
Very nice.
Although, for whatever reason, the engineer's manual, which I do have, which is 35 pages, isn't on DriveThruRPG anymore.
Weird. Sounds like a worthy hunt.
apparently their site is in a. We're restructuring our site. We'll have a new one soon, but I have a feeling that may not be the case. Which also means I have a hard time finding someone to credit. But the since we're not going to get another chance to do it, and it's only 35 pages, I'll briefly touch on the engineer's manual. It is essentially a GM's book, mostly about engineering, advanced rules, combat with full-on war machines, as well as building the NPC end of things. And I do think if somebody's gonna be playing this game, it would be quite necessary, in my opinion, to have that, because otherwise there isn't really any advice on NPCs. And I know some might go, well, just use the way players are made. I'm iffy on that. And yeah, I checked. There's no NPC stat blocks. Now,
there's no real guide to their creation either.
Yeah. Now there is that in the engineer's manual. There's a whole section called building villains, as well as building minions. Some of it is going into how to do it, but also how to use a quick roll setup to have the equivalent of minions, because you don't want to have its own full character. I know some people romanticize the whole, just make them the way you make characters, but at the end of the day, when you're doing that, you're putting the same level of detail for that is used for one player character and multiplying it. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of doing it in that setup. Though I will admit it depends on the game. In the case of the engineer's manual for Steamfortress Victory, it does go into NPC only Fathom abilities, which make things a little bit easier, as well as a draft board that the GM can use for tracking things. But I don't quite know why the engineer's manual isn't available on Drive-Thru-RPG. I don't get it. And because of that, if I were to grade Steamfortress Victory in my setup, I really want to go with recommended. But because of those asterisks, I can't. I have to go with playable.
That's fair.
And that's not saying this is a bad game. It's just I feel like some sort of bestiary need to be present here.
Yeah, hard to play a game if you've got nothing to fight.
I know some people. I remember when I talked about the lack of a bestiary in Candela Obscura, and some people were like, "Well, maybe you'd prefer a monster manual like in D&D," and I'm like, "No."
Oh God, I read that thing cover to cover. I hated it.
I did. You probably saw the video that I did on it, and
I have not actually.
Yeah, I did. I did 2 videos, one before it came out and one after I got the book. And the whole that whole thing is about defending the city from the creatures that go bump in the night.
Mm-hmm.
But it only gives like a paragraph description of each creature that goes bump in the night, and not any stat blocks or effects. And when I criticized that, I had some people telling me, "Oh, the game trusts that you can use that the table can use their imagination to figure that kind of stuff out." And I'm like, you're basically throwing them into the middle of the deep end of a big ass swimming pool, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and saying, "Swim, damn it! Now drown less."
Not to mention the book is largely incomplete.
Pretty much.
Which is why I felt it was like a big cash grab. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me with this.
I think it's telling that it's only been in the last few months I've seen some third-party stuff with the whole Illuminated Worlds label. And nobody that I've seen is doing anything with Illuminated Worlds outside of filling in the blanks with Candela Obscura. But with Steamfortress, the only thing I can really say is that this needed a bestiary.
Yeah.
If this had a proper bestiary, even if it's a bestiary that's like 5 pages at most, this would immediately go up to recommended.
I mean, even if you could do those 5 pages, you could just put it in the engineer's manual.
Mm-hmm.
At least it's something, you know?
Yeah. But as is, there's some cool ideas, but a GM who wants to run Steamfortress is going to have to do some extra work. This sort of mindset was all over the place in the indie tabletop space in the late 2000s. So even though this came out in 2012, it in some ways feels like a game from 2008. It's not as big of an offender of that as some other ones I've seen, but I have eyes. But that is going to wrap it up for this particular episode of The Valley. We will be back here next week, returning to Tokyo Nova. In fact, let me see what the focus is going to be when we get to that. So, give me a moment. Let's see. Oh, so next week we're getting straight into combat.
I'll prepare the decks then.
As well as the writing rules. And given that the experimental character we made had the Kaze style, writing is going to be in it. If it's getting its own section, that's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah.
So I will certainly look forward to that. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.